Good evening, everybody. Another installment of Greek. This is going to be a review lesson, and I'm just going to have to go back over these concepts again from the book that we've been doing. This is chapter 2 of the Elements of New Testament Greek, as a result of the test that came through from the 104 Greek. And I found that the majority of you are getting most of the questions wrong in some way or another, and it's not easy. But it's telling me as well that I need to go back and I need to do things. I need to explain even more clearer than what I have been doing. So it's not your fault. It's more mine than anything. And I have to look at it objectively, as teachers have to. If a teacher sets a test for the students and then all the answers come back wrong, it's generally not the student's fault. It's the teacher's. So. If all the students are getting them wrong, if there's only one student getting everything wrong, then obviously it's the student's fault. But when everybody's showing signs of confusion, then it probably means that I need to come back like this, and then we'll sort out the confusion and start again. Okay, so hopefully you'll be familiar with the terms as we go through, but there's certain aspects I need to repeat and explain again. So. In chapter 2 it starts off, they give us the example of the verb luo. And remember, luo is you have the stem, that's the lambda upsilon, and then the pronoun will go on the end of that. In this case it's omega, and you should be familiar now, if you see omega on the end of the verb, that's in the first person. First person is the person speaking, is I am doing something, and that's how you translate this as I loosen, or I am loosing, untying, or they say, okay, but like luo, you're loosening off a rope or something like that. So he's untying his ox, that's the example I gave there. Okay, so when you do have the verb stem, and you need to recognize the stem, on the end of the stem you have the pronoun. Now there's also pronouns that are going to be separate, so often you'll see that the pronoun and then there's a verb, or there's it's not a pronoun, but it's a noun telling you that this noun, for example, these people, these angels, this person, that's the noun. He is doing something. Okay, and then you could have the word angels, and you should be familiar now with angeloi, for example, that's the plural. If angels were untying, so now you've got angels, and you can say those angels, or the angels. So it's not you speaking, and it's not you, but they. So if you have to think in terms of I, first person, you, second person, and you have you, second person, plural, and then third person, he, she, it. And so you're speaking to somebody, you're referring to the angels that are over there. So the angels are in the third person. It's not you doing the action, it's not the person you're talking to doing the action, it's the angels, and that's third person plural. So you'd have angeloi, for example, or men. You should be familiar with the term anthropos. Anthropos is the singular, and anthropoi. So you could say those men, anthropoi, and because it's plural, and that's the third person plural, you would change it to the verb. If you said the men are unloosing, loosening their ox, for example, then you say anthropoi loosen. Okay, so you see that. So if I was unloosening by myself, I could just say luo, okay, because that's I am. You is lueis, and then the third person singular, like he, for example, luei. Now you wouldn't normally say like say you Tim unloosen. You just say you. But if your example you're using a third person, okay, and the angel was unloosening, for example, then you would have the noun here. Okay, so an angel, the angel, that would be whole angelos, because that is like the pronoun. So the angel, whole angelos. And so you'd have to have the, well, if you want to express that it's an angel untying, so you have whole angelos luei. If you don't have the whole angelos, then all you can do is say he is untying. You couldn't say the angel is untying, of course. But so that's you're having the noun with the verb. Okay, and then you got lu omen, we are untying. So lu is the main stem, and then omen, we are doing something. Luete, you are untying, and luusen, they are untying. So when you do see the third person, usually that's when you're going to see a noun with it, because if we're just saying I, we just you're going to see the omega in with the verb stem, and if it's you, usually you just see the ace. Okay, that's you are untying. Or if it's second person plural, like you guys, you people, then it's luete. Okay, so but generally, if you're talking about in the third person, so for example, my father was cooking. And in that case, you'd have the word cooking, and then you'd have my father is that's the noun. And so you'd have to have the nominative case. I hope I'm explaining this okay, because you're sort of trying to bring two concepts together at the same time. I think that's probably the problem, because you've got the verb, and the verbs have all their different endings and things, and you've got the nouns, and the nouns are going to be in different cases as well. So I think that's where the problem lies. And I'm just trying to explain it from my frame of reference. And we're just sort of working around these concepts here. Okay, so again, you got the stem and you got the pronouns. Now, these pronouns are only going to be used in the present active indicative. Okay, so if you're doing something in the present active indicative, these are what and present means it's the present tense. Okay, so here's another concept that's coming in we have to add to all that confusion, is that you have your different tenses in Greek, like there's the present and then present participle, and then you've got the aorist tenses. They're sort of like a past tense type thing. You have first aorist and second aorist, so the endings will change there, the verb endings will change there. You've got imperfect and then future tenses, so the verb endings are going to change. But whenever they give you the basic forms, like when you're studying the Greek language, the basic forms they'll give you when you start off is in what's called the present, and then active. Active explains the voice. In Greek you have the active voice and you have the passive voice. There's actually a deponent as well, which I'll explain later. But the two main basic ones, active voice means the subject is performing the action. Okay, so the subject is the main person, he's the one that's doing the action. So you go back to a verb like luo, for example. This is present active indicative, and the subject is I'm performing the action, I'm actually doing the action. If it was passive, it would be I am receiving the action. So the verb would appear in a different form. Okay, so if you said like, he is kicking the ball. Now that's active voice. Okay, just going back to basic English here. He is kicking the ball. So in this case, you have the person doing the action. That he is the subject, and the ball becomes the object. He is kicking the ball. Okay, and that makes the verb kicking, that is actually an active verb. But if you said the ball was kicked by him, now it becomes passive, and the ball is the subject. Okay, and then the person, he becomes the agent of the action, they call it. So, the ball was kicked by Peter. Okay, so that we're emphasizing the ball now, that's the subject of the sentence, so that's passive. And it becomes a passive voice. Now, in the Greek, we're going to use, when you're explaining the nouns, and we're talking about that the people that are doing the action, and the sentence like Peter kicks the ball, you have two nouns. One is Peter, he's the boy, of course, and then you have the ball, and you have the verb, Peter kicks. And so the kicks is in the, that's the active voice. And getting back to here again, okay, so luo, that's the active voice, it's present tense, it's happening now, it's active voice, the I am doing the action. And we also have in English what's called the mood. So indicative mood Let's explain it as a statement of fact. We have different moods in Greek. Again, if it's your present active indicative, you could have indicative explaining that the fact. It's a statement. You're just making a statement. I am untying. You can make it as a command. That's an imperative mood. You say, you wouldn't command yourself actually, so you wouldn't get this in the past in the imperative, but you could command somebody else. That would be in the second person. So you could say, you untie the ox, or you untie the piece of rope. So that's a command. And then you have things like subjunctive mood. Will you untie that? Let's talk about mood. But for the verbs that you see in the list here and the way that they give them and the basic Greek grammars is that the examples are going to be in the present, active, indicative, and then the dictionaries as well. Okay, they don't just give you the stem in the dictionary for the verbs, they will give you the verb in the present, active, indicative. And that's why they're really important, because the dictionaries, the lexicons, have the verbs with these endings in. Okay, so omega again, this is saying I am untying, present, active, indicative. And all we've got there is the stem and then the ending. And you're starting to get familiar with these, I would guess, like the second person singular. Remember, the second person is you. If you think of things as a triangle, you've got first person, second person, third person, and you are the person speaking, you're the first person. You're speaking to the man directly and say, will you come to Bible class tonight? But then if you're using the third person, now you're talking to the second person, but you're talking about somebody else. Or you could be talking to yourself, I guess. But let's just say you're talking to somebody else and you're saying, will they come to Bible class? So now they is in the third person. And we had examples, the men. You can say, will those men or will those women come to Bible class? Will the children come to prep school? So all of those words there, the men, the woman, the children, that's sort of like the he, she, it concept. You're not talking to them, but you're talking about them. That's third person. Okay, so your second person singular, again, lueis, if you're talking to somebody, you're saying you are untying. Present, active, indicative, again, it's a statement of fact. You're not asking a question, or you're not making a suggestion about something or a command. You're just making a statement of fact. And that's how these verbs are working here. And luei, so that's your third person singular. He, she, or it is untying. Okay, and then you have your first person plural, omen. That's the ending for these. And luete, usen, and us or usi. Okay, so that depends on whether how the next word is going to be formed, whether it begins with a consonant or a vowel. That's why this will change between you have the nu on the end and sometimes you don't. Okay, so hopefully that explains enough for that section right there. That's the verbs. Now we'll come down to the next section where we had the so explain all that. Okay, well here's some more examples. Let's just go through these. So you had the word lego, that's the basic form to say I am saying, and then leges, that's the you singular, lege, legomen, legete, and legusen, and you really should remember these. There's the 6 forms that you have to remember of the verbs. Okay, and then if you take the word, just a verb, you take the verb to see. And so blepo, first person, singular, I am seeing. Blepes, blepe, blepomen, blepete, blepusen. And that's sort of how I've explained it before, but again with the repetition, it does take a while, so you need plenty of repetition. Even watching these videos over a few times would be very helpful, I think. Okay, so that's the basic stems, and then you've got the verb endings. And the verb endings, you need to remember that they're in the present, active, indicative. Okay, that's for the verbs. I won't do this. Okay, so now we've got the translate to do here. Okay, so if you look down on the charts down below, and I don't think you had to do your 2.1 last week, there was something else, this is an earlier lesson, but you might be able to remember actually, lambane. Now the first person, let me Okay, so present active indicative would be lambano, first person singular, sorry, lambano, and you get lambane. And if you go back up to here, if you're not sure, you can check up here and you can see what's the ending there. Oh, it's a he, she, or it. Okay, and here, he, she, or it. So when you know what the stem is basically lamban, and you got these two letters on the end. So you saw that was he, or she, or it. So you would translate, and lambano means to take. Okay, so you could say he, second person. So I just say, yeah, he here. So he is the third person, as we just saw. Okay, so he, she, or it takes. You just translate he takes. Okay, didas komen. This is didas komen for number 2. But the stem must finish before the omen. So you should recognize that's the ending, omen. And so everything before then is going to be the stem, didask, and you want to know what the form you'd find in the dictionary is, we'll just put the omega on the end. So you take out that ending, and that will be didasko, I teach, or I am teaching. Okay, number 3, akusen. Aku, and remember that we had the memory device, acoustics. So you know that an akuo is to I hear. Okay, and here you have to recognize the stem here. See, usen would be the stem, the ending. So aku, just the first 4 letters there, with the omega on the end becomes akuo. So the word is akuo, but akusen, maybe you can't remember, usen, could be the second or third person, first person, or the singular or the plural, but you just have to go back up and check the chart, and you look for usen there. Oh, that's they. So that's the third person plural. Okay, so when you're doing your homework, you come back down, akusen, so you know akuo would mean here, and then usen, the ending is they, so you would, if it was your homework, then you would translate this as they hear. So you just keep it simple. They are hearing as well. Okay, ekete, ete is the ending, ek is the stem, but with usually it would be echo in the dictionaries, okay, which would mean I have. In this case, ete, you go back up to here, you'd have to check. Okay, and ete means the you plural. Okay, so how would you do that? And you got you plural on the, which one are we doing? Ekete. Okay, and echo means to have, so you plural have. So you're talking to a group of people, you might say, oh, you have hats on, or you have umbrellas today, something like that. So that would be ekete. Blepo, that's the basic one, so that means I see. Luace is to loosen. Okay, so that means you are loosening, because ace, as you come up here, you see that that's the you singular. Okay, so it's you singular, or you. If you're doing your homework, actually, make sure you just put S for singular after something, or PL dot for plural, to help me know that you understand that it's singular or plural. Okay, so it's luace. Now, she is throwing. I don't think, well, have we had the word throw? It's balo. So I don't know if you maybe further down somewhere here, you should have it. Or just slide down here. Okay, you'll have to go down to the bottom. What was these words? I'm surprised they had that example there without the word. So there's the word balo for throw there, so you'll have to check back on the list. Okay, and you come up here, and they want you to translate throw. So now you know the word for throw is balo. Where were we? Excuse me. Okay, she is throwing. Now she, he, she, it takes on the form of the epsilon iota on the end, like this here. Okay, so in that case you would say ballet. So you take like the B one, that's the beta, and then alpha, lambda, there's 2 lambdas there, and then you have to put the ending on to say she is throwing. Okay, and they have, again, that would be ekete, they, so ekusen, they have. Okay, so you take the stem, like here's the word have here, just there, epsilon key, and then usen on the end. They have ekusen. We are leading. You know the word lead is ago. If you're not sure, you can look it up in the dictionary. And then omen. Okay, here's the word. There's the ending for omen there. That's the we, first person plural, omen. Okay. I guess a memory device to remember that, you know, we as the second person plural is like men. So we are, you know, if you had a whole lot of men, that's plural anyway, so omen. So we are leading as argo men with the omicron there. Okay, so you know, hopefully you can see how you're translating things now. So that was that section there. Okay, you can always have a look through again through these charts. I've given you there, I am loving, so they just take the omega, there's philo, philo, philes, philae, philumen, philete, philusin, or philusi. Sometimes it helps, you know, it helps if you just repeat these things a few times over, and then that should help you remember as well. Okay. Okay, so practice 2.2. You could try those. I think maybe yeah, just try them on your own time as well. Okay, this is what I want to get down to here as well, is that the nominative and accusative cases. Now we're talking about nouns. If you're talking about cases, you're talking about nouns. So you have to get that into your head straight away. And there's about 5 cases. It depends on the system. Sometimes they have an 8-case system. There's 5 main cases. That's the way that I studied it. And the nominative, this relates to the subject, the action, the person that's doing the action, or the thing that's doing the action. Okay, so here's you call it the nominative of the active verb, I guess. So if you have a nominative doing something, then that's going to be followed with an active verb. Okay, and then you've got the accusative, and accusative relates to the object. Okay, now we have what's called transitive and intransitive objects, because some verbs, you can say I sleep, for example, and I is the subject because you're doing the sleeping. You say I sleep, but you don't have an object with that. So that's what we call an intransitive verb. A transitive, and trans means to go across. So you're going across from the subject. And if you look at it like going through the verb and then into an object, it needs an object. Okay, but you know, some verbs that they just don't need objects. Like I ran, for example, you don't say I ran. You could say I ran on the road, but now you're introducing a preposition. Okay, so that changes things. But you wouldn't say I ran the road usually. Okay, but so I ran, that's an intransitive verb. It doesn't require a verb, a object. Now I'm just going to read very quickly. This is another Greek grammar book I've got, and this explains it. So you can, I haven't got it written out anywhere or on a file, but it puts it simply. It says the subject of a sentence is put in the nominative case. Thus, apostolos genoske. And apostolos, you should, you almost hear the word apostle in there. That's what it means. Apostolos is apostle. And genoske, which means, together it means an apostle knows. And you can almost pick up the K on the end, that's the epsilon iota, that's in the third person singular. So the apostolos genoske means an apostle knows. And the word apostolos is the nominative case. The object of a transitive verb is placed in the accusative case, and transitive means it goes across. So, for example, you say blepo logon, and blepo, you can hear the sound there. Blepo means I see, and then logon finishes off with the omicron nu. Remember, logos means a word, but that's the word in the nominative case, but logon that means word in the accusative case, and I'm seeing the word. So you could say I see, but actually the verb see really has to be a transitive. You can't just say I see, because you have to be seeing something. And actually it's an interesting study when you look at faith, because faith is transitive. Some people just say I believe, and you say what do you believe, and they say well I don't really know. Okay, but they have to have something as the object of their faith. And you might have heard that come out in teaching before as well. Faith must have an object. What do you believe in for salvation? I believe Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. So in that case, you're saying, yeah, I believe, and then believe, again, is a verb. It's a transitive verb, and it requires there to be an object at the end of that sentence. Some people say, I believe Buddha, or I believe in Buddha. You're adding the preposition there, but there has to be an object. Okay, so in the Greek, the nominative case expresses the subject, and the accusative case expresses the object of the transitive verb. Okay, and you had the examples here. So Aden, hall, or close. Now we don't. You just have to have the word the crowd here. Okay, so here's the nominative case. These are the people doing the action. In Aden, they put it in the aorist tense. Okay, so that the verb form changes from that. But again, you see clearly here that this is the nominative cases. These are the people doing the action. And then if you, look at this. Oh, and he saw a great crowd. Actually, so I didn't want to do those examples because it's just going to get confusing here. Okay, so we'll just stick with this for now. This goes back to last week. The nominative, the singular case, for example, a word like logos. Logos means word. And the nominative case, this would be the subject. Okay. Now the thing in the Greek is you do see the object like in John chapter 1. Jesus is the word, and in that case, because Jesus is the subject, he's in the nominative case, and you're saying that this is the same thing. So you see the word logos in the nominative there, but you wouldn't normally see logos as doing the action as a word. Mind you, for the Bible it's a bit different because we say the word is alive and powerful. Okay, but normally if you under normal circumstances, people don't say like the word was doing something. Talking about the book doing something, we wouldn't say that. Okay, but generally, okay, so this is the example I've given us. So this is what we will work with. If you see the omicron sigma on the end of a noun, okay, and this is telling you that it's singular in number and it's the nominative case. And they actually have different endings depending on whether it's masculine or feminine or neuter. And omicron sigma is the masculine endings. Although there are some cases, just to be more confusing, you'll have masculine things but they take on feminine endings. And maybe vice versa, I'm not sure actually. Okay, but anyway, so omicron sigma, you have to remember that as nominative singular endings, oi becomes plural. And they give you the example like anthropos, which means man. The man is doing something. And anthropoi, the men are doing something. It's nominative. But then if you said, for example, I see the man, and you say blepo, I see, and then he would be anthropon. In that case, I see a man. You don't have the article. Remember, if there's no article, just translate it as a usually. Okay, so I see the man. Blepo, this is I see anthropon. If you say I saw the man, then it will be blepo ton anthropon. That would be the article with that. Okay, and then us, that's the plural for the accusative. So remember, they become the objects of the verb. So I see the man now becomes blepo anthropous. So you got the root word of man, anthropos, but you have to go through your forms, and now they're not doing the action, they're the objects of the action because you're seeing them. So in that case, again, you'd use the omicron upsilon sigma ending, us, and you put that to your main noun, which is anthropos, and it changes now to anthropous. You cut off the omicron sigma off the end. And again, with the dictionaries, if you see the nouns are going to appear in the nominative singular form. We had with the verbs, they chose, they had to choose a particular sort of a type of verb. And so with the verbs, remember, we have the present, active, indicative. That's what appears in the dictionary. When it's talking about the nouns, it's always the nominative singular, masculine. That's the form that you'll get it in. Unless, again, if it's like the feminine nouns, then you have the feminine form. Okay, so here's the examples here. Adelphos. Okay, so adelphos is nominative. Adelphon, that's the singular accusative. Adelphoi, that means talking about brothers. We're talking about a group of brothers, or brothers together, as the object. Okay, so you can say, I love my brothers. Agapo, the I love, and then adelphoi, and then you probably have to say mu on the end. Mu means my brothers. So in that case, but adelphoi is the plural. That's right, yes. Adelphus, because they become the object of your love. Okay, you could say the brothers love me. See, now you have to use omicron iota ending. That's the subject. The brothers are now doing the action. You say, my brothers love me. So it'd be like adelphoi mu, my brothers, and then agap. So you take the word agapo, and it's them, because you're talking about them in the third person. So agapusen eme. Eme is that's the nominative. Not nominative. That's the accusative singular pronoun. Okay, but just we need to try to keep it very simple. So adelphos is the brother, or a brother, and he's the subject, what we call it the nominative. Adelphon is the accusative. He becomes the object of the action. Adelphoi, adelphus, and then kurios, that's the word for Lord, or just Lord. Kurios is the subject, so nominative. Accusative singular, kurion, and the plural becomes kurioi, that would be lords. The lords are doing something. Or in kurius, in this case, it's the accusative plural, and so something is maybe happening to the lords. The lords were defeated in battle. Or sorry, the army defeated the lords. That's an easier way to look at it. So the army is the nominative, and defeated, that becomes the verb, of course, and then you have the lords, they're receiving the action, okay, they're at the end of the action, so they become the accusative case. That would be kurios. Okay, so what case and number are the following words in? And you can see just from the ending, let's see, ton meant bread, remember, so you can look down the lexicon down the bottom. Ton, in this case, we can go up here if you're not sure, and you see omicron nu ending, that's the accusative singular. So the answer for that would be accusative singular, and you match up the endings for that. And 2.3.1, that was last week's practice. Okay, so if you haven't sent them, just check in to make sure you got those right. For some of you, I haven't sent your test back because they were just so bad. There's too many mistakes, I think, and I did require your practice from last week was 2.3.1, so that's this one here, and then 2.3.3, and then 2.4 and 2.5. You can probably pause the video at this stage. It's probably a bit much for you, so you might want to take a break and then just go back to the start. But I'll continue teaching. Okay, we're at minute 40, so it's probably getting a bit long for you, but you could either stop here if you want to carry on, but this is part of your homework, this practice 2.3.1. Okay, but I'd like to get this finished off, so I'll just carry on here. 2.3.3, okay. Now you do have to remember in English the word order is important, but not so in the Greek. But we'll skip over that for now because I really want to get you to be able to do your homework at this point. So when you form a sentence, and we've done the practice here up above, so you know how the verbs work together, ble pace, that's just you see. And now you see, what are you seeing? So you have to put the object in We put the object in the accusative case. So you need to know your noun, and then you have to have the right ending on it. And as part of knowing the noun, you sort of have to know where the stem finishes, and then the ending needs to go on as well, of course. But when you see the omicron nu on the end of a noun, that tells you that that's masculine, singular, accusative. Okay, but usually we don't have to talk about the masculine and feminine, because it's sort of obvious in the nouns often. But anyway, so angelon is an angel. So in that case, blepes, angelon, you, and the epsilon iota sigma ending from blepo, that tells you that's you singular, and you see an angel. So you've got it all there in just those two words, you see an angel. And if you see many angels, then that blepes, and the ending changes, omicron, upsilon, sigma. See, that's, if you go up here, you can see the, where was it here? The accusative plural. So you just need to check this chart. It's 2.3 point, what are we at there? Oh, 2.3.3. So this is not your homework, but if you just want to check up with that to make sure how they got those endings. Okay. And then more examples here. I think they've given, the examples seem numerous enough and they're fairly clear. So blep, blepo, blepete, you take that's the basic verb to start off with, and then angelos, blepe. Now here they've got the subject, or it's the nominative first. Who's doing the action? It's the angel, and then blepe, he sees. That tells us third person. Now in the Greek, you can have it either way, and the sentence wouldn't change. The meaning of the sentence wouldn't change. You could say blepe angelos. I think usually when you're reading, we try to work out where the subject and where the subject is in the sentence first, or that's how we speak things. Once you get more familiar with the Greek, I mean, I know I still do that. I'm still looking for the subject first in sentences because that's how we work. But for a native Greek speaker of that time, he would sort of see it either way, and he'd be able to work things out, whether the verb came first or the noun came first. Blepete angelon, you see an angel. Okay, so they're taking that there, the you, and that's the blepete, that's the plural. Sorry, so you people see an angel, one angel, and doulos blepe angelon. Okay, so now you have here's the subject, which is the nominative, and you have the object and the accusative in there as well. So doulos blepe, our slave, sees an angel. Now again, you could have this sentence anyway. You could say blepe angelon doulos, and that would say the same thing. It means the slave sees an angel. Or you could say angelon blepe doulos. It would mean the same thing. Okay, so again, the word order is not important. And so people in their minds when they're speaking, they just have to make sure they had the right stems on things, and then it would all work out for them. I think that's why you do get some discrepancies in understanding of the Greek, because sometimes you might have, it could just be a pronoun or a verb, and it's not within that, what looks like that sentence, and people have missed out something. Romans 8:28 is a good example of that. Some people will translate the verse as, all things work together for good for those who love God. But the real translation is, because God is the subject in that. And you look for the subject and you see, God works all things together for good for those who love Him. So later on, maybe we can do that sentence as an example. Douloi, blepusen, angelus. So douloi, again, this is the word for slaves. This is in the nominative case with the plural ending. So we know that the subject is slaves. And then blepusen, see the verb, blepo, but it has to take on that third person plural ending. And then what are they seeing? They're seeing many angels, and that becomes in the accusative case. Okay, so when it says, the 3 steps of the translation, work out the cases of the words. So you have to look at the endings, what the cases are. And then they say, work out why the different words have the cases they do, because that's saying, is it in the subject or the nominative or the other cases? Okay, so when they say work out why the different words have the case, they're trying to say, what part of the sentence is this? Is it nominative? Is he the subject, or is it the object, for example? Okay, and then so this was your homework here, I guess. 2.3.3. Yes, that's right. Okay. So again, just based on what I've said, and again, you have to sort of look at it very slowly. Work out where the nominative cases first. Try to find the subject first. Might be easy because that's how we tend to do it in English. And you see the Omicron sigma. In this case, it tells you, okay, so here we have the subject. It's a brother, and he's in the nominative singular. And so we just translate a brother, not the brother. But you should put in the start, because just to say brother teaches crowds doesn't really make sense. So a brother, you see the word didaske, and the word didasko. Now here you have the verb has to match the subject, it has to match the nominative case here, because it's a brother doing something. But it's not he, it's not you, it's not me, it's the third person. So in this case, when it's somebody else doing something, and it's not you, and it's not the person you're speaking to, the verb is always going to be in the third person, either the singular or the plural. And in this case, we know he's singular because it's Omicron sigma. So again, this is nominative singular, and the verb has to match that. Okay, so he's going to, the verb is going to express the third person singular. And then oklus, which you should remember as being crowds. And the word crowds, they're not performing the action. They're the ones being seen, being taught by the brother. Okay, see, the brother is teaching, and that's present active indicative, so he is teaching now. It's a statement of fact. Our brother is teaching crowds. Okay, and remember the word, crowd is actually, we have a singular form. So if he's teaching crowds, it's not, you have to imagine there's like maybe 2 or 3 different groups of people in that case. There are 2 men, and then so this tells you that we, okay, because umen, actually it's from omen, but they merge them together. But umen is we. And zetero, remember that meant to seek or to look for. Okay, so it's not to look at, but in this case to look for. You're looking for bread, ton, and this would be bread, but bread is, now we're getting into countable and uncountable nouns as well. We don't normally say bread unless you say a loaf of bread, and then you need the counter word in there as well. Okay, but in this case, if you're going to translate it literally, it would have to be we seek bread, or we seek bread. Okay. I think if you work through it slowly, you should be able to do these. I don't want to do these again for you, but you can sort of, if you know the verbs and you know the endings, just do it word by word, try to work it out. And then you're going back to the Greek for this as well. So a brother sees a house. Well, you know the word for a brother is adelphos. And in this case, we're not saying he seeks a house. It's the word just to see is blepo. And in this case, because it's in the third person, you have blepes. Or blepe, sorry. So a brother seeks. So there'll be adelphos as the nominative. And then blepe, taking on the ending, the third person singular ending, and a house is oikon. Okay, so he sees a house. I think they've got that word down there. They should have. I'll just check. Okay, so oikos, here's the subject, that's the nominative, but before he sees the house, so it has to be oikon. You have to put the oikon ending on. Okay, remember all the nouns here that I've got, these are in the nominative singular. Okay, so this will help tell you what the word is, but you have to knock off the end, cut off the end, and then you have to put your new ending on if it's changed, if it's not in the nominative singular. So again, it might be the nominative plural or the accusative singular or accusative plural. Okay, so Okay, so again, this is your homework from last week, and I'm going to give you another week or a couple of weeks actually, because we're changing the curriculum. Pastor Fede would have talked about that to you today, and I'll have to mention it tomorrow. But we'll just carry on with the Greek course, but I'll give you at least, and maybe another week. Another week should be enough, because we do need to keep moving forward. Okay, so again, you've got your 2.3.1, which we had 2.3.3. That's this one here. And just take your time with it. If you're not sure about it, just try anyway, okay? And then I can correct that for you. But yeah, hopefully, just with a little bit of practice, you'll get the hang of it. Okay, and then we had the other examples here, 2.4 and 2.5. Okay, and they've actually, like in this case, for example, they've got the pronoun on the beginning. So hoi huioi is the sons. That's in the nominative case, and you can see how the pronoun will match the noun. Okay, and then like whole theos is the God. That usually we just translate as God. Okay, so have a go with that, and just take your time and see how you go with that. Okay, all the best.